Hello, everyone. Welcome to our webinar tonight with Peter Sinclair, Oil Wars or Clean Energy. What do we want? Peter Sinclair is a climate videographer, which means that he has been reporting on the climate by talking to hundreds of scientists around the world. He's been to Greenland several times. He's very big into the Michigan rural energy scene and talks to a lot of farmers, talks to a lot of folks all across the political spectrum, and sees what people are talking about in terms of energy and climate. And it is just a real treat to welcome Peter Sinclair. Peter, take it away.
Hey, Bill. Okay, I hope people have taken the chance to look at some of the pictures we've been getting from the Artemis spacecraft. It kind of reminds us of the best of humanity, because we certainly are seeing a whole lot of the worst lately. And take a little bit closer look here at the place that we're talking about and talking from now that means so much to all of us. I've been working on climate change and clean energy solutions for quite a while, and so I'm gonna race through this. Is going to be a bit of a fire hose. I hope everybody used the bathroom before we got started here, because it's a lot. Baseline is the planet continues to warm. If anything, that warming is accelerating. We've got some papers recently that show that the rate of acceleration per decade is picking up, which is concerning, if real. So we shall see. Coming off of a winter, we've had two winters where we didn't get a whole lot of snow. Two winters recently where we got quite a bit of snow, and so people have been asking me, in a warming world, will we have more snow or less snow? And the answer is unequivocally yes. Let me back up and explain that a little bit. Rutgers University has a snow lab where they publish a nice graph of Northern Hemisphere snow extent, and they publish it by season. So this is going to be fall season, going back to about 1967. So imagine in your mind what you think that might look like, and here it is, which is a little counterintuitive because the snow coverage seems to be increasing. But then if you think about it again and remember high school physics, warm air holds more moisture. And as things cool off in the fall and things get dark in the Arctic and puffs of cold air come down, that moisture is going to precipitate over broader areas. And in particular, where there's places where there's no longer sea ice, say along Siberia, there's a lot of what we might call lake effect, but I guess it's ocean effect snow that is hitting a lot of areas that are getting it pretty heavily. This is the winter, which is more or less steady. It might even be a little tiny bit of an uptick since 1967. But I think anybody that skis or spends time outside will tell you that the snow quality on the average over the last 25 years has just not been consistent, because we keep getting these periods of thaw. It snows and thaws and snows and thaws, and it makes it pretty hard on us that grew up loving to ski and things like that, because we just don't know what the conditions are going to be. Winter warming is ongoing. We are one of the states that is warming the most in the wintertime, as you can see from this graph. And mentioning those thaws, we are getting more extremely warm winter days, meaning days that are temperatures above the 90th percentile, above average.
Excuse me, Bill
Yeah,
and Peter, this is Barb. You're
yeah.
talking about a graph, and I'm not seeing it. I don't know if anybody else is, but if you're sharing your screen, I'm seeing everybody else.
Anybody not seeing a graph?
I see the screen.
With a graph?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't, what's
I
wrong?
see the graph and the screen as
Okay.
well.
Barb,
It's just,
look in your window. There might be two tabs that you can click on.
I'll play around. Thank you. Sorry to interrupt. I wasn't sure what other people were seeing.
Okay. Uh, okay, and here's spring. Uh, and here you see the warming. And here you see something that I think is common to all of our experience, that the spring is coming sooner, the winter is melting away a lot faster. And that means that instead of having a blanket of snow on the ground through March and even into April or later, feeding moisture into the ground and protecting the ground, we now have ground that starts drying out in April. And by the time we get to the warm season, it's much drier, much more crackly dry than it used to be 40, 50 years ago. And it means you've got big masses of warm and cold air bumping into each other. And when that happens, like it did about a month ago, you get this. Is what we saw in Union City. This is an F3 tornado, the kind of thing that we would normally associate with Oklahoma in April. This is, in fact, the earliest F3 ever recorded in Michigan. And if you remember back a couple of years, well, this is Union City again, and it's interesting because you see all this devastation, and then you see that the lake still has ice on it. So that's kind of a jarring reminder that this is coming much earlier than in the year than we would expect a tornado to come. And if you remember 4 years back in 2022, we had the most northerly F3 tornado in Michigan history. And so that was a shocker certainly for people in Gaylord who don't even have a warning system for tornadoes, because why would they? And that's why my friend, Dr. Jeff Masters, said we are seeing tornadoes at locations and at times of year that we're not used to seeing them. And we expect that to continue. And if big masses of air, warm air and cold air, are bumping into each other, the other thing we're seeing is this.
So another round of ice. Some of these right over areas that have counties with 50% power outage already. So there's already existing ice. All right. There's a lot of existing ice right in here. Some of you that lost power aren't going to be seeing it anytime soon. That's for sure, unless they can get back on today.
So these ice storms are coming that we don't really, that are kind of outside of people's memory. Certainly in Upper Michigan in 2025, we saw it, and now we've seen it again this just a month ago. This is 1 week after the ice storm of 2025. We still had emergency conditions in many counties in northern Michigan. A lot of people were still out of power for weeks. Then just a few weeks ago, March 16th, we had yet another ice storm where emergency was declared over a large part of northern Michigan. Huge damage to trees and to infrastructure, particularly transmission lines, and a lot of people out of power. It took a year, but we finally got some FEMA funding in just a few weeks ago for that 2025 storm. But a whole lot of damage was done and a whole lot of additional expenses to some of those northern electric co-ops who are going to have to not just rebuild, but figure out a way to harden and make more resilient their transmission system. Interlochen Public Radio did an interview with Dr. Ricky Rude, formerly of NASA, formerly of University of Michigan, who's got a new paper talking about the probability of these kind of storms becoming more likely the average location of the freezing line moving further and further north. So where it used to be reliably snow, now you're more likely to see this freezing rain. And that freezing rain could be a much larger event because there's just more water available. So this is a concern going forward for a number of reasons. Uh, in large part because of the effect that it has on the forest. You can see all the downed trees and trash there. And like I said, the soils are drying out more in the summer than they used to. So come June, May and June and the warm weather, if we get 3 weeks of dry weather and a strong wind, a spark is going to be a dangerous thing up there. And I was up in Gaylord a few weeks ago at an event commemorating the 25 ice storm. And I heard from homeowners and foresters about their concern about fires. And I hope I hope we don't see it, but it is a real thing. We've certainly noticed the smoke from Canadian wildfires that are moving steadily eastward. Maybe over the last 20 years, we've been used to reading about large fires in California and British Columbia or Colorado, but now we're starting to see them in northern Canada, even in Quebec. And that's because those northern forests are drying out, that snow is going away. So when June comes, they're ready for a spark. And so we're seeing these kind of conditions that none of us have ever seen before in our lifetime. And it's beyond bewildering and horrifying to see this happen in what we consider God's country. But those fires, more evidence that those fires are moving eastward. We saw just this month when the prairie lit up in Nebraska on record.
It's now considered the largest wildfire in Nebraska history.
It's about 70 miles as you're going one way. That's burns.
The Moral Fire, raging across the Panhandle, still sits at 0% containment.
And this is from the Nebraska State Climate Office showing what the general trend in prairie fires has been upward, with these being punctuated by these extreme events. And I think many of us will remember 2012 as an extremely warm spring, and we seem to have topped it this year. But this is something I'm very, very concerned about and kind of keeping an eye on because I didn't expect these kind of possible fire dangers in Michigan maybe this soon. We're also getting more heavy rain. A lot of people are aware that we're getting rain in these larger events. We've had quite a bit just in the last couple of weeks. So a whole lot of places around the state have found themselves flooding now for the second or third or fourth time in just the last few years, because a whole lot of our buildings and infrastructure are basically built with assumptions for a planet that no longer exists, and places that were not floodplains 30 years ago now are. And those big rains tend to carry a lot of soil and everything else that comes with soil, including chemicals and biological stuff, down into our waterways, and they create an ideal environment for critters like this. This is Cylindrospomopsis, which is a blue-green algae. It's a toxic blue-green algae. It creates a neurotoxin that when you have one of these blooms can be very dangerous to water systems. Toledo has had some problems with this. Animals have been killed around Lake Erie. Uh, Discouragingly, worryingly, we're starting to see blooms like this in Lake Superior. Prior to 2012, nobody had ever seen one, but now here and there in certain places around the state, they're being reported almost every year and more frequently. So this is something that is of great concern. If we want to preserve the quality of the lower Great Lakes, we have to get a handle on Lake Superior, which is warming rapidly. And all of this together, of course, is impacting us economically, most notably through our home insurance. Certainly, if we start seeing fires in northern Michigan, that's going to be a big one. But already, although we're used to thinking of Florida, Louisiana, Texas, and California as the big high-risk states, the most recent studies that we have show that premiums have been climbing 3 times as fast as inflation. They rose in 95% of all zip codes in the last several years. And we're now seeing severe convective storms, meaning thunderstorms, straight line winds, and particularly hail, which are wreaking damage all across the Midwest and the Great Plains states. So we're seeing insurance rises particularly severe in places like Nebraska, Minnesota, Iowa, and Wisconsin. Michigan is also going up, but not quite as sharply as some of the other ones just yet. But Jerome Powell, chairman of the Federal Reserve, warned the Senate not too long ago that there could be a time in 10 or 15 years when parts of the country it will be literally impossible to get home insurance. So that's basically a quick run through. We could go on and on and on talking about the impacts and reasons for concern. There are certainly some at a much larger scale, planetary wide scale that we could talk about, but I'm trying to focus on Michigan issues here. And the news is not all bad about solutions. A lot of people thought going into this year with a very hostile administration for the clean energy transition that that renewable energy would really be taking a big hit, and it's taken somewhat of a hit. But in fact, Standard & Poor's Global Clean Energy Transition, which is a stock index, grew 44% in 2025. Which handily beat the 16% average for the S&P 500. And the S&P Global Oil Index only went up 11%, which was interesting because they were supposed to benefit from the drill, baby, drill agenda. And that's not really transpiring. And as we'll see, in fact, recent events might be really turning out to be quite the opposite for the oil and gas industry. The green line here is clean energy stocks, and the red line is oil, and the black line is the average of the so-called Magnificent Seven. So green energy and the people that are investors in green energy have been pretty happy over the last year. And we continue to see a lot of growth in that space, and we expect to see it continue for several years because there's so much in the pipeline. But this is really, I think, the most important thing that we have to come to grips with is that the war in the Middle East is creating the largest disruption in the history of global oil market, and it hasn't really reached around the planet yet because so many of those tankers and ships that were still coming out of the Strait of Hormuz before it closed are still out at sea. They haven't made it to their ports yet. So that seagoing pipeline, as it were, is still arriving around in ports here in North America, but also Europe and Asia. So a lot of those refineries and industrial plants are still being fed by that supply chain, but that's going to end in approximately the next week or so. And just to give you a quick review of the geography here, there's the Middle East, there's the Persian Gulf. You see Iran, Saudi Arabia, Iraq. This is the famous Strait of Hormuz. Obviously, it's a choke point, 20 miles wide. You can see why it's a problem. This is Qatar, or Qatar, which you probably have heard a lot about. They gave the president an airplane. And probably expected that, good things would come of that. But they're now trapped with all of their natural gas, and they are the world's second largest exporter of natural gas behind the United States. So all of that gas is now trapped in the Persian Gulf indefinitely. We don't know how long. And that's affecting global markets. And a lot of people besides myself, it turns out, were wondering why this has not been really totally reflected in the prices that we're seeing in the most widely cited markets. Christine Lagarde is president of the European Central Bank. She's being interviewed here by the senior editor of The Economist magazine, two I would argue, pretty well-informed and serious people, and this is what they were saying just a week or so ago.
We are facing a real shock that is probably beyond what we can imagine at the moment.
I would agree with that. I mean, I look at financial markets, and I think there's some kind of cognitive dissonance going on. Do you think there is just a sort of blind optimism that somehow this is going to be over and the world will go back to normal and people are going to suddenly wake up? Or will it be a gradual realization that there are going to be really significant consequences?
Well, maybe they're overly optimistic and determined to stay optimistic in the hope that the positive scenario will materialize and we will be back to normal in relatively short time, which is not what the technical experts are telling us in terms of capacity, extraction, refinery, distribution, because too much has already been damaged and there is no way that it can be restored in a matter of months. Most people are actually talking about years.
So we're looking at years of massive disruption at a best case scenario at the present time. So Financial Times asks, will Trump's war boost the clean energy sector that he despises? All over the world, economic ministers and prime ministers are agreeing they have to accelerate the renewable energy transition, and it's not about climate change, it's about energy security and their economy. So it mentions Kenya, African nations. If Africa were powered by clean energy, would the Middle East carry the same kind of impact? Wake-up call for the Indonesian president. And Keir Starmer, Prime Minister of the UK, said, what gives us control is renewables, our own homegrown energy. We should go further and faster in relation to renewables. So this is the theme you're going to see everywhere. And I think we're even going to see it here in the United States. People are starting to get it as gas prices start to bite. In Korea, a big high-tech industrial country, the president of Korea is warning there is chaos worldwide. It's worse than one might think. And relying on fossil energy is extremely dangerous for the future. All energy sources must be rapidly shifted to renewables. This is real. This is a real break point in history. I'm convinced, because the pain is going to be deep and it's going to be radical. And what's different about now and say the 1970s is we have options that are real and very economically viable, and China is happy to provide them. So all across Asia, people are looking at their options besides natural gas for generating electricity. Pakistan in particular is doing a very rapid shift to solar that's driven from the grassroots level. They're shifting away from both gas and grid power of people across Pakistan. There's a large farming population, and so many of them are switching from diesel generators to solar energy. This is a graph showing what's going on in Pakistan, which is a huge country, a huge part of the developing world. And the developing world is the market that is going to show the greatest growth over the next 30, 40, 50 years. And if U.S. companies are going to miss out on that, that's a major, major concern for all of us going forward. China, of course, is ideally positioned to benefit from this. Meanwhile, here in the U.S., we're canceling a lot of solar storage, wind, and other kinds of generating capacity, which is ironic considering we're told there's an energy emergency. Still an awful lot going in, but the hostility of the administration has taken a chunk out of the growth that we would have expected in 2025, just through a whole variety of permitting, roadblocks, and other kinds of difficulties that the administration can throw in the way of clean energy. They've been pretty creative. Nevertheless, it is expected that if you look at this graph, you see coal is going to be a big loser in the next 2 years. Natural gas, a little bit, nuclear, something, but wind and solar are going to continue to be the big build out for new electric generation in particular. And that's going to continue at least through 2027, no matter what the administration does, because there's so much of this that's in the pipeline. We have a problem in that if you look here at the black line, that is the supply of energy that we anticipate we're going to have, given what is in the pipeline right now. And the yellow line is the supply that is going to be needed to meet the projected peak demand. And it looks like the break point is coming in about 2 years, 2028. So if we don't start getting a whole lot of new energy generation onto the grid, it's not just going to be a climate problem, it's going to be a very severe economic problem, because electricity is going to skyrocket. And if that happens, there are people out there who will want to put the blame on clean energy when that is anything but the case. So we have to come up with a solution. So those of us that are interested in the energy space, that we're interested in climate, we're interested in clean energy, we have to kind of meet this moment. And to do that, we have to kind of understand what is happening here. After essentially 20 years of flat demand in the United States, we now have some growth in electric demand that's fairly abrupt. And it's coming from a lot of things. We're reshoring some manufacturing. We're electrifying a lot of things, like with heat pumps, things of that nature. We've got all kinds of electronic gadgets. We're starting to use EVs. But we're also building a lot of data centers. And in fact, this call, this Zoom, this conversation that we're having relies on the network of 17 data centers that Zoom has around North America and around the world. So all of us, if we use YouTube, Facebook, email, Google, Slack, Netflix, HBO Max, if we shop on Amazon or online at all, or if we just share cat photos with our kids on our iPhones, we're all using data centers. So we have to figure out how we can deal with something that's become woven right into our daily lives, just like electricity, and is vital for a lot of us to of course communicate with each other, but even to make a living for many people. We have so many people that are working entirely online. So the point is, and here's where I throw a curve at you, is that if we do data centers stupidly, that's certainly possible, and we would be heading into a disaster if that were to continue. But if we do data centers intelligently, they could actually be a piece of the solution, a substantial piece. So we know what a bad data center looks like. Elon Musk showed us that with this power plant that he put up down in Memphis, or just across the state line in Mississippi, but still in the Memphis metro area. And hang on, my screen is frozen. Hang on. What happened there? Here we go. I'm going to introduce you to Jigar Shah. I met Jigar Shah in Washington, D.C. at a conference about 15 years ago, and he's still is among maybe the top 5 smartest people I've ever met. He's an engineer. He founded a solar company in the early 2000s. He's been an entrepreneur and investor in that space for decades. And for the last 4 years, he was director of the very powerful Department of Energy Loan Programs Office, where he dispersed something like $40 billion worth of funds and loans to clean energy projects. So he knows the space perhaps more deeply than anybody else that I've ever met, and I follow him pretty closely and find his insights just vital. But I'm going to play some clips from some of his podcasts here so that you can maybe get an idea of what he's telling us about the present moment.
Our friend Elon Musk, not really our friend, but has turned on a data center in record time. It was like 22 days or whatever it was in Memphis, right? Using basically natural gas generators, and then connected it to the grid, and then put in a bunch of Tesla Megapacks. But it has somehow convinced the entire state of California and all of the Silicon Valley bros that you can run a data center off grid. Like, what the hell?
Tell me about why you don't think it'll be as much gas as it seems like there will be.
It never ceases to amaze me that in the energy space, people make decisions all the time without doing any due diligence, right? And it's just shocking to me. Like, when you think about how much natural gas pipeline capacity we have in our country and how much of it can be firm, it's minuscule, right? Like if you build a natural gas plant in Ohio and then you say, I would like firm 8,760 hour access to that gas from that pipeline, that doesn't exist.
Yeah, right.
And it's 5 to 7 years to upgrade that natural gas pipeline, right? I just think that like they're going out and buying a bunch of solar turbines, right? Saying the natural gas grid is so robust, right? Fantastic. You do you, man. Like I have like an engineering degree. I can read stuff. You don't. You went to Mar-a-Lago and paid $250,000, sat next to the wrong guy and got lied to. I get it, man. You do you. But like it doesn't work. Right? Like it just doesn't work, and everybody wants it to work. And then they want to use the grid as backup, right? Then they want to say, well, don't worry. If something goes wrong with our natural gas, system, we've got this grid and it's going to catch up. No, we don't, right? The grid does not want to back you up. If you're going to be so bold as to say, I can build this thing off grid, go with God. Go do it off grid and come back to me crying in your milk when you can't make it work, right?
So if you're picking up that Jigger is not convinced that this model that we're hearing so much about, that there's going to be a whole lot of data centers, that they're going to all be running on fossil fuel and gas, and that data center developers are just going to be able to put these things up willy-nilly, he feels very strongly that this is unrealistic, and he argues in his podcast that a whole lot of the development that we have heard about, that we have been told is coming, is just not going to happen, simply because if people are planning to run it off of natural gas or off of nuclear, which doesn't yet exist, it is just simply not feasible. But there is another way. And it turns out that Michigan is actually one of the states that might be an example as far as how things could be done, and maybe be harmonious with developing clean energy and meeting our climate goals at the same time. So this article from the Washington Post says the most overlooked U.S. power plant isn't a gas turbine or a solar farm, it's your house and thousands of others. Firms want to use them to power data centers. They're talking about something called a virtual power plant. And this is something, it's an idea that's been kicking around for a really long time. The idea that if a whole lot of homes have batteries or devices that can be electronically linked together, air conditioners, water heaters, refrigerators, whatever it might be, they can become a source of either efficiency or actual source of power when the grid needs them, and that people can actually benefit from participating in that. So last month, Google announced that it has a new data center in Minnesota that will help fund thousands of small utility-owned batteries for homes and businesses across Minnesota. This is a virtual power plant that will be part of the 1,900 megawatts of new clean energy capacity powering the facility. So no new gas-powered, no new fossil fuel-powered plants to operate this, but instead a virtual power plant made up of homes and businesses that Google funds. All the new electricity that data centers will demand could theoretically come from upgrading homes with smart appliances, heat pumps, and batteries, and operating them as virtual power plants. Here in Michigan, Google has signed a deal with DTE, a 20-year deal that will include big investment in solar power. Google will commit to cover the costs they will pay for adding 1,600 megawatts of new renewable energy, mostly solar, to the Michigan grid. Essentially, they're just giving it to us ratepayers, along with 480 megawatts of battery storage. So that is literally billions of dollars worth of new generating capacity that is clean, that ratepayers will not have to pay for. No new fossil energy plants would be built to serve this facility, which is proposed for Van Buren Township in Wayne County. So this is cutting edge. This is if we're going to be able to stay in the game as far as the internet and artificial intelligence, and I totally understand all of the reservations people have about artificial intelligence. That's the topic for another Zoom. But just in terms of providing the energy, it is possible that we can actually get these data centers built and put these billionaires to work buying new generation capacity that is clean, that benefits all of our ratepayers and keeps rates down and cleans up our carbon pollution at the same time. Similarly, regulators approved DTE contracts for another data center that a lot of people have heard about in Saline, just south of Ann Arbor. I've had a number of conversations with local folks about this, including the former mayor of Saline, who is now the drain commissioner for Saline Township, who knows quite a bit about this project, Gretchen Driscoll. And she has kept me pretty well informed on this. This is a project where the data center developer will furnish for the ratepayers of the state of Michigan 1.4 gigawatts, 1,400 megawatts of new battery storage. And a large amount of that has already been contracted and is being constructed. So that's, again, billions and billions of dollars of assets that will help ratepayers meet their demands and keep rates down and do it cleanly, that we're not going to have to pay for. These folks are two of the members of the three-person Michigan Public Service Commission, appointed by the governor. These folks are the ones that made the major decisions, at least insofar as the power goes, for the Saline data center. And here you're going to hear them talking about this arrangement where the developer, Oracle, is going to be buying energy storage capacity for the ratepayers of Michigan.
The customer is almost 1.4 gigawatts. So a lot of energy. That's a lot of capacity. And what was agreed to between DTE and Oracle is that an additional 1.4 gigawatts, so matching the size of the data center, of energy storage. So these are 4-hour lithium-ion batteries, would be built across the state to provide additional capacity to be able to make sure that this load can be served at the times of highest usage of the electric grid. So this storage is built, owned, and operated by DTE, but paid for by Oracle.
Just over 2 years ago, the legislature enacted a set of reforms at the end of 2023, and one of those was a storage target of 2,500 megawatts statewide by 2030. It was the first storage target in the Midwest, one of the first in the country, and one of the most ambitious in the country. And I think you can get hung up on, gigawatts and megawatts and everything else, but to just put it in terms of comparison to what the law requires as we get to the end of the decade, this contract on its own, again, paid for by the customer, gets us more than halfway to that statewide target. And so it really, I think, ups the level of ambition. And storage plays all sorts of roles. It's been said that it's the bacon of the energy system. It just makes everything better. And so when you think about what that means in terms of reliability, in terms of driving down prices, in terms of the ability to integrate renewable energy resources or add more nuclear to the system, storage helps with all of that.
This is the only supply chain that's infinitely scalable. Like if you wanted to double or triple the amount of deployment of batteries next year, we could do that. Right. And I just think that you can't do that with natural gas. You can't do that with all sorts of other supply chains. Right. And so if you want to meet the moment and not just barely meet the moment, but exceed the moment so that you can actually get back to a healthy level of reserve margins and all the other things that we want to get to, all roads lead through solar and battery storage.
And getting more than 50% to our statewide goal with one contract paid for by a third party and not by the other customers across the state, that's a huge benefit to Michigan.
Okay, so the reason that I want to make this point why energy storage is so important, because what we have seen over the last 5 years is the price of battery storage has dropped to the point where it is now being added to the grids all over the world, really at an exponential rate. And one really good example is California. Now, this is a graph, and I hate graphs, but let me explain it to you. It shows two things. It shows the amount of renewable energy being generated in a California grid over this 24-hour day. So if you look at the bottom line of the graph, you see 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Those are hours of the day, so the full 24 hours. And the green line is renewable energy. So in those early hours, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, that's mostly wind, some hydro. And so it's steady. But then when you get to like about 8 in the morning, suddenly you see that huge bump on the green line. That's your solar. And this particular graph was 4 years ago, almost exactly 4 years ago, April 4th, 2022. And you see all that solar is coming. And at the time, California was literally having to pay utilities in Arizona and Nevada to take their solar power because they had so much of it and they didn't know what to do with it. Now, fast forward 4 years, they have a lot more battery storage. And what you see now, that purple line is really doing something. The green line is the renewable energy. The purple line is battery storage. So when the sun is really strong and that green line is really high, now they're instead of paying people to take that energy or just losing it, they're charging all those batteries. And then when you look towards the end of the day, people coming home from work, they're turning on their stoves, they're turning on their microwaves and their TVs, energy demand goes up, and now all of that demand and that peak time is being directly replaced by natural gas. So natural gas usage in California over the last 4 years has gone down by about 60%, which is absolutely massive. And a similar dynamic is happening in Texas, where they are building an awful lot of battery storage, and they have, of course, a lot of sun and wind. So this is very important stuff. I'm just going to basically touch on the issue of water related to data centers. Data centers use about less than 1% of all the surface water withdrawals in the United States. Thermal power plants, coal, gas, and nuclear are responsible for between 40 and 50%, almost half of all surface water withdrawals go to cool thermal power plants. Let me say that again. Almost half of all surface water withdrawals go to cool power plants. Solar needs no water. Wind needs no water. Batteries don't need water. So to the degree that we can offload the burden of servicing data centers, but everything else also onto wind and solar and batteries is going to be a huge, huge benefit in terms of lightening the burden on our rivers, on our lakes, on our groundwater, everywhere where there are power plants. So this is a huge win, not only in terms of clean energy, but also in terms of water, to the degree we're able to switch over and use money that is not the ratepayers' money to do it. And I've got a screen freeze again. Here we go. So solar power is surging in Michigan. The map that you see there shows the sort of the way our grid is divided up into various regions. They all have acronym names, but the one that's relevant to us is MISO, the MISO, right at the top there. And we're setting records with solar generation in this region, and largely due to major improvements in battery storage. The utilities are capturing this and distributing it throughout the day. Solar's growth trajectory is similar in MISO to what Texas was doing a decade ago, and Texas has seen spectacular growth. And it says Michigan in particular is poised for a continued surge of solar power. And you can see why with some of these projects that we've got in the works. Michigan is actually going to be one of the leading states for new solar over the next couple of years, with more than 3,600 new megawatts in the pipeline scheduled by 2028. It's the largest, Michigan is the largest solar build of any state in the MISO system. So this is really good news, and we need to get behind it. People have asked me about things that they can practically do, things that they can support, actions they can take. Here's one. Michigan has a balcony solar bill. You may have heard that countries all over Europe, people are able to buy these solar panels that basically all they require is you, if you've got a sunny spot, you just hang them out and then literally just plug it into the wall, and you're able to take advantage of the solar generation, and cuts people's electric bills, or could potentially charge a battery over time. So this is not going to solve the whole energy picture, but it is certainly a help for an awful lot of people in a moment when electric bills are rising everywhere, and people are looking for ways to be resilient in the face of, say, extreme weather and things like that. So the balcony solar bill is in the Energy Committee right now. House Bill 5764. The sponsor's name, I believe, is Snyder. I think it's Bill Snyder. I'm having trouble remembering it right now. But so if you have a legislator, you can call them, write them, email them, tell them you're interested in the balcony solar bill. I think it's something that would send a tremendous message to utilities, to the community at large, that we're going to be serious in Michigan about this, and there's certainly a whole lot of people that could take advantage of that. Another thing I hope I can get people inspired to do is look around your community. If there are solar or wind or battery projects that are under consideration, go to that county meeting or that township meeting or zoning board of appeals or whatever it might be. Show up and speak up, because the fossil fuel industry has done a terrific job of using social media to spread a whole lot of misinformation and disinformation about clean energy. And there's a whole lot of people that get all of their news from Fox News and Facebook. And they're convinced that Wind turbines will give them cancer, and solar panels will God knows what. But they know that there's some kind of a fraud, and somebody's trying to take their money or something. So this is a meeting I went to at Ingersoll Township here in Midland County about a month ago, and a number of people did come to speak up in favor of a solar project there, and I do believe it's going to be approved. But it's a struggle everywhere, and this is one of the most effective tools of the fossil fuel industry to hold their competition back is by stirring up resentment among the, let's face it, these are MAGA style people and they're low information voters. And it's easy to get them upset. You can also go to the Michigan Public Service Commission website, and I will put this link in the chat before the end of the evening here, so you'll have it. But what you'll see there is these are clean energy projects that are being contended, and they are being we have siting reform that is now allowing them to go to the Public Service Commission for consideration when they have been illegally blocked at the local level. And so you can go here and you can click on the little green or blue numbers on the left-hand side there, and that will take you to a page where you can make a comment. You can say, I drink Michigan water, I breathe Michigan air, and I pay Michigan electric rates, and I think this is what we need, and I care about my children, and I care about keeping the rates down. So I would plead with everybody to consider that. Again, the MAGA crowd tend to move in packs. They are motivated on Facebook, and they show up on these things, and they skew the comment pages to great effect against clean energy, and we need to push back on that. You can also go to myhomegrownpower.com, which is a project we have to get people organized around doing exactly all of that stuff, showing up at meetings, making comments, and supporting clean energy. If you go to this page, you can click on the Join Our Mission. It'll give you a little bit of training. You can sign up and be slotted with some other people in your general region. And then you'll be advised, and it might only be once every 6 months or so, or not even that a particular project comes up in your area. But it's amazing what a difference even 3 or 4 or 5 people can make if they show up and act like adults in changing the chemistry of a meeting. So we live in one of the most beautiful and unique places in the world, and I'm incredibly grateful to all the people in Nemiac who feel so strongly, and maybe as strongly or more strongly than I do, about how special this place is, and that it's worth protecting, it's worth defending, and it's worth trying to protect the future for. So I want to thank you all for being who you are and showing up. Whatever your particular mission is in life, and if you have ever thought that maybe there's something important for you to do, maybe there's something you want to get involved in and really work towards. We're in a moment now where you've never been more needed. My own motivation comes from my grandson Finnegan, who just turned 2, and I want to do what I can to see that he has a planet that looks something like the one that I grew up on, as he continues to grow. So, thank you all for showing up. Check out my blog, think.blog. I'm at Peter W. Sinclair on either X or Blue Sky, both of them. Sun101.org, a lot of good resources pushing back against disinformation. Also, win101.info, and of course, myhomegrownpower.com. So, thank you so much. We can do questions. We can do whatever you like, but I'm hoping that perhaps people might be inspired to dig a little deeper. We still got time.
Yeah, thank you very much, Peter. This is really fantastic. So let's give it up for everybody. Let's give it up for Peter. Woo! Let's see those thumbs. Let's see those the celebrations in the chat. Does anybody have a question? I see a couple comments here. I think you all can read the comments, but any questions for Peter? And if you do, feel free to unmute yourself, and we'll just there's not a whole ton of us here, so we can just unmute and ask away. So Peter, I just wanted, I heard about some, I know the battery technology is really increasing like crazy.
Yes.
And I heard something about BYD, the Chinese manufacturer of EVs, has a battery that is instead of sodium or instead of lithium ion batteries, they're now doing sodium ion batteries.
Right.
And they're like incredible. Like it's like a game changer in terms of the technology, how long they last.
Right. Right. I remember 6 or 7 years ago, I was giving a presentation in Flint, and someone was asking me about the batteries and concerns they had about, this mineral or that mineral being used in batteries. And I said, don't assume that the battery chemistry that we were looking at in then 2019 is going to be what we'll have 5 years, 6 years, 7 years down the road. And that's totally happened. So we went from lithium ion, which was the standard maybe 7 or 8 years ago, to lithium iron phosphate, which was like yet another improvement. Much safer, much more reliable, much more resilient to temperature. And now they're talking about sodium ion, which is obviously sodium is one of the cheapest and most widely available minerals that we have out there. And supposedly these batteries perform crazy well under really, really cold conditions. And so they're not quite the standard yet. They're still kind of cutting edge, but they're starting to come out in like mass quantities because they're being manufactured for EVs by companies like BYD. So, but expect more developments. We could do a whole Zoom just on battery technologies, and some of the other clean energy technologies that are coming forward that a lot of people haven't even heard of yet.
Yeah, some of the specs I heard on the sodium ion are they last like 10 times as long as regular batteries, and when they're done being used in vehicles, they're still 80% efficient. So you can take them out and put them into industrial grade, solar or batteries for your house or for the grid. So it's really great. Hey, instead of me blabbing here, let's go to Lee. Lee, you got your hand raised for a question.
Hey, Lee.
Yeah, that's a really great chart that you showed the amount of water that different power plants use.
Yeah.
And of course, solar uses zero.
Right.
But solar also intercepts sunlight, converts some of that sunlight to electricity. And so it's actually a negative effect on the heating of the earth rather than a positive effect. And so, in general, and you know this, 2/3 of the heat comes out at the power plant and uses that water.
Sure.
The other
Sure.
third comes out into the environment when someone's actually using the electricity.
Yeah, right.
And so the fact that solar, I mean, I've heard so many people say, well, do we get a heat zone over the solar farm because those panels are hot? And the answer is they're exporting the energy, not letting it hit the earth or the grass. And so that's another point you could add to that slide. Good job.
Thank you. Thank you. And, I interviewed a young woman a few months ago who is a shepherd who grazes sheep under solar panels. And she was in Indiana, and it was kind of a hot day when we were there. And she said on a hot day, underneath her solar panels, or the solar panels where she grazes her flock, it's 20 degrees cooler than in the sun. So the sheep love to get in under the solar panels, and that soil remains cooler and moister and retains more moisture, and does all of the good things that fallow soil does, just that much better because it's protected from the blazing sun. We've got another, John, you have your hand up.
Go ahead, John.
Yeah, thank you, Peter. Thank you so much. What a great presentation it really is. I had a 40-year career working with large utility power plants that use fossil fuels and nuclear power. One of the very frustrating things in working with these utility companies that are regulated, and that regulation basically is giving them a set guaranteed profit margin,
right,
no matter what they do. We would work with them, we'd come in there and say, we can reduce the amount of water you're using by a significant amount. We can improve your energy efficiency, your heat transfer efficiency by a significant amount. And the answers that typically came back was, no, because we don't have a return on investment there, because they don't have to be efficient. They can pass those costs on to those of us, the ratepayers. And that's part of the challenge that I see in this. And I'm very concerned about the batteries. I think the batteries are fantastic technology, absolutely. But if the electricity that is charging those batteries, that is being stored in those batteries, is not made by solar or wind, they're just going to continue to charge us more. Because look at the cost of natural gas, what that has done in the past 18 months. And it's going to go even worse on what's going on over in Iran right now. So, hold on to your hats, guys, because you haven't seen anything yet. And it's going to be passed on to us, the ratepayers. And that's one of my big concerns. And, they just don't have the incentive to be efficient. And that bothers me. Thank
right.
you.
Well, okay. So a couple of things there. Our fathers and grandfathers created the utilities, utility monopolies, for some pretty good reasons, and they made them monopolies to kind of make things a little bit simpler. We've had such a revolution in technology now that we can perhaps begin to think of other ways that our electric system can be organized. I guess that would be the subject for another Zoom maybe. But in regard to the battery, I would just California and Texas have showed us that what is actually happening with these batteries when you get a certain amount of renewable energy on the grid, and then you get a certain amount of batteries. It's almost like there's a phase change, in the grid, because suddenly you start using that stored energy that you couldn't store before during that peak time at the end of the day, which historically you've always had to cover with gas peaking plants, which are some of the most inefficient, most costly units that we can possibly buy. And they're being directly replaced by that battery storage. So the battery is directly zeroing out that fossil fuel. And so it doesn't so much really matter how you're charging the battery, but in reality, it is during the day, during when there's sun, when there's wind, or even at night if there's a lot of wind and low demand. That's generally when you're charging those batteries, and the more of them you get on the grid, it's a virtuous cycle. It builds on itself. So I think it's a real game changer. So Clyde, you had your hand up. You've had your hand up for a bit.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. Two things. Supercapacitor technology, where does that stand? And as far as these community township meetings, we've got to get these developers to start thinking outside the box. There's a gentleman down by Manchester that grazes sheep under solar panels.
Oh, yeah.
And he has had to jump through so many hoops with Detroit Edison and consumers that it's just becoming impossible. And then Michigan State just had a series of webinars on ideas to grow with. And there was a gentleman out in West Virginia, that is breeding what he called inverter cattle that will fit under solar panels. And so,
okay, so
we got to get these people to start thinking outside the box.
I totally agree. And so there's all kinds of opportunities. And Clyde, you're an original thinker. So lots of places to interface on this. Ann Rogers, got your hand up.
Hello, it's David here with Ann.
Hey, Dave.
Here for what?
Just a quick couple little tidbits here you might want to also think about. With the advent of more battery storage, there's two factors of that that should be considered. One is if you charge the battery by any means, using solar, wind, or whatever else, the energy that it's producing is stored there. When you create energy by 60 cycle, be it gas, oil, anything else, it's never stored. It goes on and off, on and off. I remember that from electronic stuff. You know, it's that flip, flop. Okay, so it doesn't store. You can actually store some of that also. It's just an alternative way. But the best thing about it is we have the ability with battery is that we can move, or when you store it, well, actually, one of the side effects, problems we're always facing here, I see with the all the consumers' power and the even my Cherryland or whatever else, is we have to put more money into the grid. That means we're trying to build more and more big wire systems that'll bring electricity 500 miles from wherever there's, you know, now it's the nuclear plants and things like that. When you start using more battery, you have local storage. So when you talk about, well, losing power because of ice storms or whatever else, or like in California or other places where there's a heat problem, you don't have to have it pumping over those wires. And if you have a wire outage somewhere in between, you have storage already. So you can get a certain amount of it always available on a battery system. Whereas if again in California, they're that's PG&E, whatever else, trying to pump it. It's burning up. It's starting fires. Okay, because if it gets hot weather, you start cooking those wires, and you're creating hazards. Okay.
Well,
Whereas,
let me respond. Let me respond to that. You're making a really good point, and I just read a paper that was looking at our transmission grid here in the Midwest, the MISO, Mid-Continent System Operator, and the point they made is that there is always a fairly large amount of power being generated somewhere on this big area by renewables that we're unable to use. It's stranded, either because we don't have the demand at the moment, or we don't have the transmission to move it where there is a demand. But once you start putting more and more storage on the grid, then you can start to soak up all that additional power that's been kind of wasted, and it amounts to on average, and this paper's probably 5 years old, so I'm sure it's more now. On average, it was like 1,000 megawatts, which is the size of a very good sized nuclear plant. So just by getting more of that storage geographically dispersed around your area, you just instantly become able to take advantage of clean energy that was being wasted before. So it is for sure a game changer. Anybody else that hasn't spoken up yet? I put the balcony solar bill, the My Homegrown Power, and 2 upcoming meetings. If anybody happens to be in the area of Midland County or Newaygo County, some meetings coming up in regard to solar. I'm really going to pound that one. If you have an opportunity to show up at those meetings, fantastic learning opportunity. You'll appreciate the democracy that we are in, and the need to participate in it so much better. I have learned so much by. I'm not a meeting person myself. I structured my whole life so I'd never have to go to a meeting. And now in the last 8 years, I've been to more damn meetings than the whole previous 60 years. But I have learned a lot, and it has been worthwhile. And I think it's really served me. And we need it. We just need it.
Yes.
So anyway, if there's no other questions.
Just a second, Peter. This is Clyde.
Oh, yeah. Go ahead, Clyde.
I was a little late getting to the meeting tonight. We had company.
Yeah.
Did you discuss anything about virtual power plants?
We did.
Okay.
We did.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, you can call me. I can tell you more about it. I think you have my contact. But it's very important, and it's really because we are in such a crunch right now. We have this administration that came in believing that they were just going to drill, baby, drill, and they were going to get rid of all this woke clean energy and all this kind of stuff, and it is not working out. And this war is going to make it even much, much, much worse. So virtual power plants, which is, as we discussed, it means stringing together a whole bunch of different power sources that might be in our homes and our businesses, or it might be in a big business or a small business, might be in your garage, stringing them all together and using our internet technology to bundle that energy and send it to where it's needed. It's a virtual power plant. And the idea has been kicking around for years and years, but suddenly we're in a situation where it's desperate enough that even this administration is now saying, oh crap, we have to start doing something with making use of technologies like this. Otherwise we're not going to make it. And they don't want to see the price of electricity go up more or faster, because that is bad for them, and they get that. And so we're starting to see some real momentum on this and very creative thinking. And you know, I have arguments with Consumers Power and DTE and big corporations all the time, but when they're doing something right, I think we need to pay attention. And Michigan is kind of showing the way, along with Minnesota and a few other states here in the Midwest, of how we can do this. And it's critical that we have a good performance in the next election. Because if Republicans can flip, if they can get their own trifecta, if they can flip both houses and the governor's mansion, they will do away with clean energy siting, and they'll do everything they can to sabotage this, and it will be a catastrophe.
Yep.
And it's not even, there's nothing rational about it. It's just they're fixated on it. So there's never been, I mean, if you do nothing else for clean energy, then just get people out to vote and you know, raise awareness about the importance of this election. That's a major deal.
Did Lee happen to mention something about the base power program in Texas?
I don't recall.
It's worth looking into.
Ann, you have your hand up.
Yes, I just wanted to thank you. I always think I know so much about it, but I always learn something new, and that's thanks to you. The one thing that NEMIAC has been encouraging members to do is to go to county board meetings, township board meetings, and push renewable energy. So many of them have contacts that are against this, and we need to change that. So thank you, and we'll be talking to you again.
Okay, Lee, did you have another question? You got your hand up again. Maybe not. Okay.
All right. Well, thanks very much, everybody, for coming. We are
thanks,
going to
folks.
record this, and we're going to put this online. We'll send everyone an email once it is up. Probably take a week or so.
Perfect.
So, thanks very much for coming, and thank you again, Peter. Fantastic job.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye. Have a good night, everybody.
Thank you, Peter.
Bill.